Hi, and welcome to Travels with Phil. I'm Phil Constantine, and on this episode, we are in New York City, and we are going to be looking at the Brooklyn Bridge, an amazing structure that joins New York City and Brooklyn. Let's take a look around, see where it's located. Right there on the red dot there, it joins across the East River, the lower part of Manhattan, and Brooklyn itself, the Brooklyn Bridge. This is what New York looked like in the 1860s before the bridge came in, and this is the area where the bridge came across. And it was decided to be very important to the city. John A. Roebling had a history of making bridge. In fact, he had made bridges in Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, before he came to Brooklyn. That's the one he made in Cincinnati. And his son wound up doing a lot of his work, Washington Roebling. He was called the Colonel, and he was in the Civil War before he came over to start working on the bridge. And this is his wife, Emily, and she started helping him after he was injured. Now, the Roeblings made a part of their fortune and their reputation by making wire rope, which helped make bridges safer, especially suspension bridges. Now, these are some of the caissons. This is what was used to dig into the ground in the river itself. And what they would do is they would put these wooden forms into the river, pump the air into it to get the water out. Then workers would work on the very bottom. Well, they had to keep this very high pressure to dig out the material that was down there, and this caused a lot of sickness. Actually led to the bends, which killed quite a few people, at least 4 people that we know of, maybe more, and severely affected Washington Roebling himself. His father died just a few months into the project when his foot was crushed by a boat on a ferry. Now, these are the towers. This is what they built up to support the ropes that would hold the bridge up itself. And this is what New York looked like. Manhattan, lower Manhattan from Brooklyn itself, looking across. That's one of the towers as it was completed there before the cables and the roadway itself were put into the prospect. Now, these are the cables. The cables are very complicated. There's multiple strands of wires that are bundled together into one cable. Multiple cables are put in together until you have this 4 main cables that go across. They're buried into the ground in concrete and dirt and rocks, all kinds of material to keep it into the ground so it can support all the weight. Then they start running the cables from tower to tower, and eventually they lower lines down from the top main cables so that it can support the work below the ground. These are the towers going up. Now, when the towers were completed, they were the tallest structure in North America. It was one of the longest bridges for quite a long time. These are some guys standing out on the cable workways out there, and then you can see the workers out here laying the structure that goes down to hold up the roadway itself. Now, this was a long operation. It started in 1869, went all the way through to 1883. To give you an idea how old this was all hand tools. There were George Custer fought the Battle of Little Bighorn while this was going on, and most of the supplies were delivered in horse-drawn carriages or carts, I should say. Now, this is the way it's set up so it can handle cars, trains, and pedestrians. There's just some of the guys hanging from the guy wires out there as they were doing some work, although this was probably a staged photo. And this is what it looks like. It was completed on May 24th, 1883. Finally completed both sides. It was a major celebration. President Chester Arthur came out to do the opening ceremonies. The entire city of New York had the day off. It was considered a major celebration there. And it was just, some people remembered it more than almost any other celebration that had ever gone on any time around that time, including the end of World War I. And newspapers, big deal, ongoing situation. There were lots of controversy around it. The Tweed Ring, a very controversial political group in New York, was remotely associated with it. A lot of the folks that were on the Board of Trustees were running for governor, so all kinds of politics involved. Now, this is what it looked like in a very, very early train trip across the bridge itself. This was in like about 1895 or 1899, about 15 or so years after the bridge was completed. And you can just see all the work that it takes and the length of time it goes across. Now, by the first day, numerous people had come across, and in fact, a week after it opened, there was a stampede that was created. Somebody thought that the bridge was about to collapse. I think 12 people were killed in that. So this is what it looked like after it was finished. This is from Brooklyn looking toward the side of Manhattan, looking toward Manhattan. This is what it looks like if you look down into the railway area. Now, the pedestrians walk up above the other two. Now, these are some of my photos that I took on the bridge itself, so you can see what it looks like. They have lots of markers out here to tell you what was going on, explaining some of the operations, how it worked, how dangerous it was. Literally, Washington Roebling suffered from the bends because of the high pressure that they had to work when they were working underwater. This is looking at the bridge from underneath, looking toward Manhattan in this particular case, and then looking down, there's the Manhattan Bridge right next to it.
Continues. Right now you are on the Brooklyn Bridge. Zoom out just a little bit. A monumental structure. Looking over toward the north side of the bridge. Over here the south side. Over traffic. I'm sure it's windy. Into the wind down here.
World Trade Center, the new one. On the left there. Wind is really starting to get out here. And this is the Brooklyn Bridge, which separates, or joins, I guess I should say, Manhattan to Brooklyn. This is the Manhattan side out here. Definitely hear the cars going by.
Way in the distance. Right in there.
Pointy one.
There we go. That's the Chrysler building. Brooklyn New York, Manhattan from the bridge.
And the walkway out there, a lot of folks, pedestrians out there, a lot of tourists, but a lot of folks getting exercise. You see they're doing some work there underneath the bridge. And another one of my panoramas, that's looking toward the Manhattan Bridge, which is just south of it. Now, this was the first bridge going from Brooklyn to New York, and it was considered an absolute necessity. Just before this period, the Hudson would occasionally freeze up, or the East River, which is what it goes over, would freeze up, and people couldn't get across to Brooklyn without going a long way around. Now, I like the aesthetics of it as well. All the cables going up gives it a certain artsy look. What should I say? Artistic. And it's quite pretty for an old structure. It's still very, very nice as far as the design is concerned. It's monumental. It is considered a monument. As you see the sun starting to go down, and you can see it through the pillars here. This is from the Brooklyn side, looking toward Manhattan. And underneath, and again, there you get some of the symmetry of the cabling. And just a beautiful Manhattan skyline. And then there's the Brooklyn Bridge on the right. And the Manhattan Bridge as well. And then just coming back in the opposite direction here from a little bit further north on the Brooklyn side. And just some of the pretty, pretty pictures here with the East River underneath the Brooklyn Bridge, which joins Brooklyn and Manhattan. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up by clicking on the button below. You're welcome to leave comments below as long as the language is family friendly. And finally, if you'd like to see more of my videos, please subscribe to my channel by clicking the button over on the bottom right-hand corner. Thank you again for watching.